Recently, NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown committed one of the most disgusting acts in sports history. The man decided to quit on his team mid-game, throw all of his jersey equipment to the crowd, and then leave the arena. Then the man proceeded to call an Uber instead of waiting for the team plane, and when he arrived to his apartment, he posted a song on his social media. Yes, a freaking song. The immaturity here was on another level, and well, it raised a lot of questions around the world. Has something similar ever happened in any other sports? Has someone ever behaved this poorly in front of an audience? Unfortunately, the answer is yes, and it actually happened while playing basketball. Even though some people may refer to the recent Kevin Porter Jr. situation in which he left the arena at halftime after having a heated discussion with his coach, that is not the first time something this bizarre has happened. About 2 decades ago, All-Star Allen Iverson decided to quit on his new team at the time, the Memphis Grizzlies, for something pretty absurd. I mean, the situation got so out of hand that the Memphis organization still hates the man until this day. With that in mind, why did Allen Iverson quit on the Memphis Grizzlies, and how did this situation lead to his NBA retirement? Well, let's talk about it right now. It was 2009 and Allen Iverson had just concluded a very disappointing season with the Detroit Pistons. After being part of the huge blockbuster trade for Chauncey Billups, Iverson declined tremendously as a player. I mean, he went from averaging an astonishing 27 points per game the year prior to only averaging 18 points per game on an abysmal 42% from the field and 29% from 3. Yeah, it was this bad. However, a lot of factors led to those struggles. From the start, AI complained about his fit with the team after head coach at the time Michael Curry lied to him about his starting role. Instead, the coach benched AI for most of the season as he believed that it was right to prioritize Rodney Stuckey over him. Yes, this man was that dumb. Therefore, a lot of chaos was caused within the organization as Iverson continuously had heated arguments in the locker room. Then after 54 games played, Iverson himself told the franchise that he didn't want to play for the team anymore and agreed to a termination of his contract. And now it was the 2009 offseason. Believe it or not, a lot of teams were still interested in Iverson after this situation in Detroit, with the Knicks and Sixers being some of the teams. However, he ended up signing a one-year deal with the Memphis Grizzlies for $3.5 million. Iverson believed that this was the right team for him and have a starting role once again, since the Grizzlies had just came off from a horrible 24-58 record. Not only that, but this was also a good start for the Grizzlies to start selling more tickets and bring more popularity within the franchise. Therefore, Iverson was ready for this experience and was given a lot of high expectations. In his first press conference with the Memphis Grizzlies, Iverson had this to say.
A lot of people, obviously, when you talk about the Memphis Grizzlies, a lot of people feel like, just getting to the playoffs is enough. That's a successful season. I wouldn't have signed the contract if I felt that that's what I was coming to try to accomplish. My goals are a lot bigger. The only thing that matters is us, those guys over there, myself, coaching staff, fans that care about the Memphis Grizzlies.
However, things didn't start well for Iverson. In just the first couple of practices, Iverson suffered a quote-unquote hamstring injury that would keep him out for all the NBA preseason. Even though some people didn't find this anything too crazy since it's just preseason basketball, this actually gave young stars OJ Mayo and Mike Conley more playing time to develop. Therefore, this meant that a bench role was going to be given to Allen Iverson at this point, which obviously made him extremely mad. However, he thought that this would be a temporary situation and decided to move on until he played his first game with the Grizzlies. Even though Iverson dropped 11 points on pretty decent efficiency, the Grizzlies lost the game 127-116 in overtime, and Iverson only played 18 minutes of action. To take this into perspective, OJ Mayo played a ridiculous 47 minutes throughout this game, while Mike Conley played 36 minutes. With this in mind, it didn't take much time for Iverson to rant about this situation. When a reporter asked him about his hamstring and if it was the reason that it cost him minutes, Iverson simply said, quote, "I had no problems with the hamstring, I had a problem with my boss sitting on the bench for so long." Iverson pretty much kept insisting in this interview that he should be starting, recalling past All-Star nods and his 2001 NBA MVP award.
Any franchise players that come off the bench. I don't know any Olympian that come off the bench. I don't know any All-Star come off the bench. I don't know any former MVP that come off the bench. I don't know any three-time scoring champion come off the bench. I don't know any first-team All-NBA come off the bench. Why Allen Iverson?
Then he was asked where he should be starting and he said that it will be either guard position. However, the craziest thing about this is that both OJ Mayo and Mike Conley were sitting right next to Iverson at this time, which caused some traction. Both told Iverson this, quote, "Seriously, you're going to disrespect your teammates like that? We're right here." However, Iverson didn't care at all, and well, he got his first strike as a Memphis Grizzly. 2 days later, the Memphis Grizzlies played the Golden State Warriors with a rookie Steph Curry and prime Monte Ellis, and well, Iverson did pretty well. He actually had his best game as a Memphis Grizzly as he dropped 18 points and a team-high 7 assists. He was looking like his old self on the court this game and actually played 28 minutes. However, the Memphis Grizzlies ended up losing once again 105-113, and Iverson was once again frustrated after the game. He kept demanding for a starting role and said that this game was enough proof for him to do so. Even though he was right, Iverson was still being disrespectful to Coach Hollins as he constantly taunted him for his mistakes. That's the second strike for Iverson as a Memphis Grizzly. 2 days later, on November 5th, Iverson sadly played his last game as a Grizzly against the Lakers. After dropping 8 points and 3 assists in only 20 minutes of action, Iverson decided that it was time to move on from Memphis and went off in the post-game interview about his playing time. He said, quote, "Coming off the bench is something that I never did in my life, so obviously it's a big adjustment. I'm so tired of discussing that, talking about that every single day. It's just not something that I want to discuss. That's something that you have to ask the coach." Iverson then added, quote, "When I hear anything about the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't hear you guys talk about anything other than this situation with me coming off the bench. I mean, there's gotta be something else with this team to talk about besides that, but I guess that sells a lot better than anything else when it comes to this team." The worst part of all of this Iverson situation is that apparently he and Hollins never discussed this situation in private. Quote, "That's probably why it's at this point right now. It's probably going to be always hard for me and him to see eye to eye because we never even talk to each other." Then less than 24 hours later, Iverson did something pretty disgusting. He disappeared and ghosted the entire organization for the foreseeable future. It was said that Iverson left the franchise for quote-unquote personal reasons, but the real reason was because he was frustrated about his bench role and never got what he wanted. Something pretty similar to Antonio Brown right now. Anyways, a few days later, after disappearing from the Memphis organization, Iverson went on a private plane and flew back to Atlanta, where he used to spend his time in the off-season. To make things even worse, he decided to actually retire from the NBA for quite a while as he needed time to process this horrible experience in Memphis.
Bruh.
Ironically, Coach Hollins actually earned a lot of respect from his team for not accepting Iverson's demands to start. A Memphis article stated, quote, "I think the fact that Lionel stood up to him gave him a lot of credibility, and some people who have been around the organization will tell you that this was one of the seminal moments in Lionel finding his voice as a head coach. Therefore, because of Hollis's coaching, the Grizzlies actually experienced a 16-win improvement that year from the previous season. Then the following year, they began their streak of 6 consecutive playoff appearances, and Hollins became the coach with the most wins in franchise history." Nevertheless, after lots of thinking, Iverson actually decided to come back out of retirement a month later on December 2nd of 2009. Iverson actually signed a contract with the Philadelphia 76ers as Iverson actually got what he wanted, which was to start. And while Iverson didn't disappoint, he ended up averaging a solid 14 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and a steal on decent efficiency. However, the Sixers didn't make the playoffs that year, and Iverson officially concluded his NBA career. Even though Iverson ended up being remembered for his iconic moment on Tyronn Lue and his crazy shot creation as a point guard, his time in Memphis is something that you definitely want to forget as a basketball fan. Quitting and ghosting your team like that isn't the way to do it, and I'm sure that Iverson was glad that social media wasn't popular at this time. And that pretty much concludes this video. What do you guys think of this crazy Iverson story? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Make sure you guys like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more basketball content, and turn on post notifications to get notified on my official videos. I hope everyone has a great day. Peace out.